read your book today. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Big Shoot. What I really wanted to do was try out some of the things with screens on them. But like the treadmills and the elliptical machines, but people were hogging that equipment and staying on longer than they were supposed to. And even when I gave them a gentle reminder that it was time to let someone else have a turn, nobody seemed to take the hint. You're 20 seconds over the time limit. Can't wheeze. While I waited for one of the machines to open up, I passed the time by watching television, but the TVs were all turned on some boring business show. So I found the remote and changed the channel to something a little more interesting. I guess everyone doesn't have the same taste in entertainment as me, because some lady got off the treadmill and to change the channel, but as soon as she stepped off the machine, I jumped at my chance. There was a big screen on the front of the treadmill, and you could choose between all these famous places to take your walk. So I spent a few minutes trying to decide where I wanted to go. After I made my choice, the treadmill started moving, and I felt like I was actually walking along the Great Wall of China. But I guess the Great Wall is steep, and I was having trouble keeping up. So after a while, I put my feet on either side of the conveyor belt and took in the sights the easy way. I realized I wasn't making the most of my time at the gym, and I started feeling a little guilty about it. But I didn't know what I should do next because I was running out of options. That's when I heard some weird noises coming from the other room, and I went to investigate. Grant! It turns out there was a whole different area of the gym, and it looked like this was where all the serious people hung out. I wanted to look at these guys, but I didn't know how to get started. And when I went around asking for advice, I found out nobody was in the mood for chit-chat. So how much weight is actually on this thing? After a while, I realized the people in there weren't interested in helping a beginner like me, so I was on my own, and the first thing I had to decide was which muscles to start working on. I figured I should particularly focus on my arms and chest, because those are the muscles that make you look like you're in shape. So I decided to start with a few bicep curls and go from there. But I didn't want to overdo it because I had lunch yesterday. Albert Sandy told us about this bodybuilder who blew out a bicep, and I sure didn't want that happening to me. Blum! It turns out I didn't need to stress about it because I couldn't even get any of the dumbbells off the rack. I thought I might have better luck with the bench press, but I couldn't budge the barbell either, and I have to admit I was getting a little frustrated. By now people were staring at me, and I didn't want to look like I didn't know what I was doing, so I started taking the weights off the barbell to make it a little lighter. But it turns out you're not supposed to take the weight off one side of the barbell all at once, because when you do, everything slides off the other side, and apparently people in the weight room don't like loud noises. So I guess that's the reason why they don't let kids in the gym. But it doesn't seem right that they kicked Dad out too, because he really has to be a loyal member. Thursday, Mom said that when it comes to getting in shape, exercise is only half the picture. She said nutrition is as important, and she'd be happy to teach me a few things about eating right if I really wanted to learn. I didn't feel like getting a lecture about food, but I jumped at the chance to go with her to the grocery store, and that's because I wanted to help pick out the food we have in the pantry. Whenever Manny goes to the store with Mom, he picks the things he wants, and that's why we have all this random stuff in our cabinets. Ham chews, Wink, Silver Fox adult diapers, quail eggs, perfect shade, at home hair coloring kit, lard. No offense to Mom or anything, but she's terrible at picking out snacks. She always buys healthy stuff that tastes awful, and she won't buy a new snack until we've eaten all the old ones. Sweet potato cookies, purny jerky, beet dip, hand duck skin chips, chickpea clusters, seaweed bars. So lately I have been having my best friend Rolly over for tasting parties to help me clear space in the cabinets. When we got to the grocery store today, I split off from Mom, then loaded up the cart with a bunch of my favorites. Then I grabbed a few healthy items just to make Mom happy. But it turns out my idea of health food isn't the same as Mom's. When we met back up, she went over each item I picked out and explained why it wasn't good for me. She held up a bottle of fruit juice, which I thought was a pretty solid choice on my part. But Mom said it was full of sugar and there wasn't any nutritional value to it. I told Mom she was wrong because there was a picture of tons of different fruits right on the bottle. Then Mom showed me the label, and I couldn't believe they can even get away with that. Contains no actual fruit juice. Mom said that if you really want to know what's in the food you buy, you have to read the list of ingredients, and she told me the cans of Chef Marina pasta I had in the cart were full of all sorts of chemicals. But I knew Mom was wrong about that one because I've seen the Chef Marina ads on television that show him making his pasta by hand in old Italy. Chef Marina. Guess. Mom showed me the small print on the back of the can which said the food was made in a factory in Detroit. She said Chef Marina probably wasn't even a real person, and they just hired an actor for those TV ads. Well, that made me pretty stupid for dressing up as Chef Marina in our wax figure exhibit at school last year. Then I started to wonder if Rotten Rudy was a real person because those Rotten Rudy TV ads scared me into drinking a gallon of milk every day. Should I drink milk? Don't be like Rotten Rudy, drink milk. Mom said food companies are really clever about slipping their advertisements into places you wouldn't expect, which made me think about the posters that are up in our hallways at school. Read and refresh. Glug, glug, glug. Books plus Barry Gonzalo. Food Pyramid. Sponsored by Barry Gonzalo. Bonanzol. She explained that sometimes packaged food companies use cartoon characters to get young kids to want their products, and I think she's right because before we left the house today, Manny was watching an episode of the Murphys where Murchy Murple was chowing down on a bowl of rock candy crunch cereal. Crunch. Mom told me that when she buys food for the family, she checks the labels and doesn't buy anything with ingredients she can't pronounce. Then she said the best thing to do is buy food with only one ingredient, like fruits and vegetables. Well, I don't know if it's just my generation, but it's a little hard for a kid like me to eat something that isn't wrapped in cellophane or doesn't came in a cardboard box. In fact, if chocolate bars grew in the ground, I wouldn't touch them. But if the people who sell fruits and vegetables want to get kids eating that stuff, they're gonna need to step up the advertising game. Field day is tomorrow, and things have really started to heat up at school. Mrs. Bosch has been making everyone in our co get to class a half hour early, so we have extra time to put together our strategy. And she's been getting paranoid about what the other classes are doing to prepare. So today she sent a lot of red mails up to the ceiling so he could spy on Mr. Drew's homeroom next door, but it turns out that ceiling tiles aren't strong enough to hold a person's weight. Wah! The homeroom Mrs. Bosch is most worried about Mrs. M. Stens because she's got a bunch of athletes in her class, and one of those kids is Jesse Range, who stayed back in 8th grade twice just so he could compete in field day one more time. Jesse Range. But the team I'm most nervous about is Miss Ray's class because that's the morning detention homeroom, and on field day I'm sure those guys are gonna play dirty. To make matters worse, we found out we're going to be competing with grown-ups in this thing. The janitor went to the vice principal and said they wanted to put together their own team because they deserve a day off just as much as us students. I guess that's fair, but the bathrooms have been getting pretty gardenly ever since they started spending all the time training. And now the lunch ladies are getting in on the act, so the cafeteria has basically turned into a gymnasium. The homeroom teachers are getting pretty spooked, so they've started training kids to improve their team's chances. Mrs. Easper sent the fastest girl in her school, Hoovie Hollis, to Miss Joy's class, and he got Thomas Scraff, who's apparently a specialist in the sponge toss. All this training has got Mrs. Bosch thinking about making some moves of her own. She even gave me the job of scouting kids from some of the other homerooms to see who we could recruit for our team. That's why it stung when Miss Bosch traded me and 2 other kids for Jesse Range and threw in a pack of dry erase markers to close the deal. Bye.